Hello and welcome to another episode of Catholic Faith Forum. My name is Chima, and today with me in the studio, I have a returning guest, Vincent Eke. You're welcome.
Thank you, Chima.
You're looking good.
We thank the Lord.
All right. So Vincent is with me to discuss the social implications of COVID-19. As you can see, we're gradually winding down on the Christmas season, and a lot of social gatherings have not been able to happen because of the pandemic. But when we come back, we'll go straight into the discussion. Stay with us. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. My name is Chima, and this is Catholic Faith Forum. We're talking about the social implications of COVID-19 with Vincent Eke. Vincent is a social researcher, and he's going to tell us what that actually means. So Vincent, what does your job entail as a social researcher?
Okay, so basically what I do is to conduct research in areas of responsible business and responsible management practices in Africa, because I work in a business school, and we do not believe that all businessmen, all entrepreneurs should set out with the direct objective of making profits. So as a businessman, it behooves on you to contribute to societal progress. And so my research is in such areas. Basically, what could businesses do differently? What strategies can they put in place? Applied research, things that can resonate practically with the businessman. And so areas of sustainability, areas of shared value creation. Yeah, so anything that can tie into responsible business practices in Africa.
Yeah. That sounds very interesting.
Yeah.
All right, so with the whole pandemic, things have changed. People relate with each other differently. Even churches are getting a little bit uptight with the way they relate with people. So why is this actually something that we should talk about?
Okay, this is something we should talk about because I think this is here to stay. With the pandemic, there has been this recurring terminology, the new normal.
Yes.
The new normal. So we have to be worried about this. We have to put in all the necessary measures, because beyond 2020, I expect that this would continue. Yes. I expect COVID could be like the new malaria. So we just may have to live. We just may have to live with it. And it's in our best interest that we get everything right in this period. So in the coming years, and we just know how to run with it. So I think it's important the churches, put in those social measures, it's important the schools, put in the necessary measures to mitigate the spread of the virus. So yeah, I think it's something we have to get used to, because it is here to stay.
So what does it actually mean for our everyday lives now that we know that it is here to stay? What does it mean? Is it going to affect our human-to-human interaction?
Okay.
Or is it going to affect our human-to-business interaction? What does it mean for everyday lives?
Okay, so from the perspective of business interactions, in this period we've seen specific sectors suffer. We've seen the hospitality sector greatly affected.
Greatly.
We've seen we've seen transportation greatly affected. We've seen hospitality, transportation. Those two sectors have been
that really deal with interaction.
Exactly, have been particularly affected. So I think what this pandemic also does, beyond saying it has affected this, it has affected that, it also springs up new opportunities for growth and advancement. For example, we have instances of ride-hailing services, private ride-hailing services now opting to do deliveries. So I think no one saw this coming. No one saw this coming, but it has happened. So how do you recover from it? Yeah, I'm aware that some players in the tourism industry have resorted to virtual tours. I'm yet to see how that might turn out, but I believe regardless that it's a step in the right direction. So you're not expected to just business is no longer moving. No. So it's left for you as a businessman to see how you can tap into the opportunity. So yes, I believe the pandemic has, for businesses and for business relationship with customers or interactions, it has given them more ways to think about how to, keep up with these interactions. Then from the perspective of individual to individual interactions, I don't see it as any problem. The virtual means of
There's
communication
always,
exists, and
yes.
exactly so. I don't think that's a
But
problem.
eventually, sometimes, not sometimes, technology can't really replace, human to human interaction.
Okay.
Even though we could have done this, we could have
Okay.
had this
Yes. Yes.
discussion over
Over.
Skype or one of the other virtual means. It makes more sense that we are together in the studio talking. So that's just what I feel.
Okay.
Anyway, on the more human side of things now,
Okay.
though, do you think the lockdown actually did us any good? Now people have gotten to know rather their bosses, their friends, their family, especially their bosses. So do you think the lockdown did any kind of good?
Yes, from a personal perspective, I think it did. And also from my interactions with lots of people, I think it also did. Because for many people, the lockdown was a time to have that reflection, which usual life activities had deprived us of.
Yeah.
You were in a confined space for 3 months. All you needed to do was look inwardly because, most times you come online, you see people saying, this has happened, job loss here and there, this. So I think what that did was just, to create that space for you to look inwards and see, hey, when this lockdown is over, I surely do want to come out differently. So I am aware a lot of people tried out different skills, a lot of people tried out learning new languages. A lot of people try to structure their supposed career path for the next.
Yes.
So yes, I think from a personal perspective and from conversations with friends, I think the lockdown really did give us opportunities to think of possible steps forward. And for interactions with families, you're in the same space with your brother, you're in the same space with your sister, your parents, whom you hardly see and communicate with in the past. So it gave that opportunity, or represented that opportunity for family values to be reinforced. These are the things we were doing as a family before life happened, before adulthood happened. So with the pandemic, I spoke to my father almost every day. I spoke to my, I was always seeing my brother. We were always having conversations, watching wrestling together. Those things which work had deprived us of in the past. So yes, I think from the family, talking about family, preserving family values, reinforcing family values, career projections, and all of that. I think the lockdown really did lots of good in helping people become better versions of themselves.
That's nice. All right, so let's talk about charity and justice.
Okay.
Charity is basically, giving out without ceasing. Then justice is actually giving out to those who deserve it.
Okay.
What do you think about these two in this particular period of time?
Okay.
Do you think we should be more charitable, or we should approach some of these things with a more justice-based mindset?
Okay, so I think I'd go for a charitable response because I think the concept of justice, like in this context now, going for those who need it, I think it's relative. Because if you, on Twitter, there's this, there was this constant back and forth. Hey, you can't find a broke person on Twitter. The person who needs this giveaway the most is on the streets.
Yes.
But that's relative because the fact that I can afford midnight
doesn't
plan.
mean I actually
Exactly, you've not even seen my phone.
True.
And you don't even know the kind of data plan I'm using. What if it's 25 naira for the night plan? So I think it's relative, it's subjective. So it doesn't really do justice to the fact that But when it comes to more charitable response, I think that is now that is what we should be after. Because even I think it's even biblical. I think Deuteronomy 15:11 says there would always be poor people in the land.
Yes.
So in whatever you're doing, just try to put those people into consideration. So with a more charitable response, we have seen charitable responses in the past. In South Africa, there was the South Africa Solidarity Fund. Private sector players came together to constitute a fund to help those people who they felt or those people who they felt would be in need of it, of those relief materials. In Nigeria too, we saw the COVID coalition against COVID-19 that has generated over, I think, 21.6 billion. So I feel that's a charitable response. I feel that's a charitable response because in that case now you think this is what should be done.
Yes.
This is what you think should be done. And I think beyond the pandemic, beyond this lockdown, we expect to see more charitable responses. And it's a good thing that these charitable responses can now be incorporated into core business activities. for example, there is a concept of corporate social responsibility. So I think, and we did see a lot of that in this
But
period.
you know, one thing with CSR these days is that a lot of them just, sometimes it seems like posturing.
Okay.
You get where they just go like, okay, I'm a big company, I'm supposed to do something for the environment where I get my money and profits from. So they just go somewhere. There's a particular community in Lagos that is, in fact, it is always the center of poverty porn. Everybody goes there to do something, and nothing really happens in that place.
Yes.
So people go to all these places and then they posture for cameras or for the social media and all of that.
Okay.
So what exactly do you feel can actually be done concerning this CSR?
Okay. So I have two suggestions for that. When we begin talking about CSR, I think companies should ensure that their CSRs are smart. They should be specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. So you know that you're not just giving 50,000 naira to community X, Y, Z. So after giving the 50,000 naira to community X, Y, Z, so what was the impact of the 50,000 naira? So you need to put measures in place. So in some companies, we have CSR departments, we have people who lead CSR efforts. And I think it's the responsibility of these people to ensure that, okay, for these donations we made to community X, Y, Z, what was the outcome? And I think another thing with CSR is you could now choose a niche. For example, as a company, I want to focus on ensuring that people in this community have access to education. So I know that for the next 5-10 years, I am channeling all my resources to that community to ensure that education-wise, I can see improvements. I may decide to say I'm focusing on this community to ensure they have access to clean water, because when there's no access to clean water, we begin to have issues of health, typhoid and all of that. So as a company, you're saying that, okay, for this community, in the next 5 to 10 years, this is what I expect to see. And when you've been able to put these measures in place, it becomes easy to measure. It becomes easy to compare actual progress against expected progress. And when you can find what's missing, then you have the opportunity to now cushion whatever. Then the next is the concept of shared value creation. So when it comes to shared value creation now, you're collaborating with, for example, before you start your business now. So you have the business idea running around, going on in your head, and you want to know how effective it's going to be. So now you're doing that, before you begin implementing, you are putting the community in mind.
Yes.
And one of the ways you can do this is to redefine your consumer need. I could be, for example, let me give you a practical example. 7-Up, in this period of pandemic, they resorted to producing sanitizers. So what they did was they reconceived their product, they reconceived their market. Yes, people need to drink 7-Up, but
at the same time we can
we can also cater. There is also the aspect of financial companies. Think of the big financial companies. They have people who they cater to, but at the same time they feel the need to cater to those at the bottom of the pyramid.
Yes.
And that's when you begin to have or see things like financial inclusion. So they go to schools, they go to rural areas to ensure that these people, they can spread the word, how they can save, how they can invest, and be able to have things to fall back on. So I think whatsoever the case may be, there has to be deliberate efforts. The businessman has to be deliberate. The individual has to be deliberate. And I've heard some people say, CSR is for big companies, CSR is for the multinationals. But I personally do not think that is true, because there are 1,001 social problems in Nigeria. There is the case of period poverty. There is the case of bullying. So I could be a company of 5, but if I speak to my employees, if I give that standing on that, see, every Saturday we go, okay, we are situated in, for example, Obalende. Every Saturday we go to Obalende and we see how, even if it's to speak about bullying, to speak against bullying, even if it's to collaborate with those who can distribute sanitary pads. So I feel there are 1,001 social problems that can be dealt with, and I think, like I said before, we just have to be deliberate about it. It's not enough to say, hey, we don't have the money. We don't know. You just have to be deliberate about it.
So can you measure exactly, how can you, or what's your take basically? Do you think the palliatives and all of that the government and private sector went about distributing in this period to help with the, social cost of the pandemic, do you think they actually did any good? Or do you think they just, made people more entitled?
Okay, so I think, from the concept of entitlement, I don't think they made people entitled, because if we know as the government, you owe it to us. So I don't think it's a case of entitlement. But then, since we've seen in the past that it doesn't always work the way it was supposed to be, like the government has to look out for us. So people saw the palliatives as, hey, the government has tried, but in reality, that's what they were supposed to do. But even at that, we had stories of people saying the palliatives were not enough, and I think that is why it is important for businesses, for individuals to pick up from where the government left. Where they stopped. Okay, they've distributed palliatives and everyone has gone to sleep. I eat food today. What would I eat tomorrow?
What would I eat tomorrow?
Exactly. So people really need to, and I think it takes us back to the concept of CSR, shared value creation, working with people in society to create solutions that will be favorable to all of them, because we cannot depend on the government. At least by the time we continue to do those things, I think the best thing the government can do for us is to create an enabling environment, to create enabling policies. So for the government, if the government is saying, hey, we want to see your CSR report for this year, we want to see your sustainability report for this year, aside your economic gains and profits, we want to see how else you're able to make impact in societies, to keep these organizations in their tools. Sometimes we hear they do it, but we don't know how effective such measures are. So I think the key word today is being deliberate.
Very
so if you're saying you want to be deliberate about accountability,
be deliberate about accountability. So basically, it means that you need to settle down on projects that keep on giving.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
Exactly.
All right. So how about our faith as Christians? Do you think that this whole thing affected us in some way? Most of us are Christians, we go to church and all of that. And because we're not able to interact with, our preachers, the whole church ambience and all of that, do you think the whole lockdown affected us?
I don't think, because I don't think it has affected us, because
or do you believe it should impact or it should affect us in any way at all?
No, I don't think. At least we say where two or three are gathered, he is always there. So I don't necessarily have to. Yeah, I would have loved to. We would have loved to go to the church, but there was no option of the church at that point in time. So in our small communities, in our families. So I think this also afforded us the opportunity to, even draw closer to God, because
a lot of us were now at home
without the guidance. So you've been led on for so many years. So this time it was for
find your feet.
It was for you to find your feet, and I think for a number of people it did come out well. People came out, or people claimed to have come out more humble than they were going to the pandemic. People claimed to have come out. People claimed to have, over the time of the pandemic, if I don't need this thing, I don't go for this thing. So I think it even did allow people the opportunity to look inwardly and make that connection with God in the most private of ways.
So can you measure the church's response to the whole social implications of everything?
Yeah, so I think what the church, when religious activities open up again, I don't know, I'm not a preacher, but I think the preachers, the pastors, the priests would have a better way of making people understand that, okay, churches are open now. So I honestly don't have a perfect response to that, but I think the churches and the church leaders know what to do when the lockdown is finally over. Yeah.
All right, cool. So let's talk about the SDGs for a while. You understand? I understand, and we all should understand that the SDGs, will help to set things right going forward. So
yes.
how important are these, and how much importance should, institutions place on all of these things?
Okay, so there are 17 SDGs, and they all speak to different things. Some speak to hunger, some speak to education, some speak to health. So I think the implication of this pandemic, we've seen goal 4, access to education. We've seen it suffer
greatly.
For months, people had no access to school. But then we still saw some social innovators, like I said. These social challenges present an opportunity for social innovation. We had some people tilting towards the aspect of providing solar tablets for children to learn. I understand a private NGO is working towards making solar tablets, solar radios available for people both in modern and urban and rural areas to keep on learning. So I think the most important thing at the end of the day is the goal 17, which talks about partnership to achieve the goals, because this pandemic has shown that you can't go at it alone. And I think the social response to this pandemic is not a sprint. It's not something you do in the twinkle of an eye. I feel like it's a marathon. It's not a day's journey.
It's a long race.
It's a long race. And I think it's this, if we are true to ourselves, it is this long race that can now, close whatsoever gaps are existent in the country and put us on the path of sustainable development. So yes, I believe the pandemic has given us more opportunities to be deliberate about the SDGs. We've seen food insecurity and all of that. So one of the things a practical example would be, we heard in Madagascar that I think what they used for their COVID patients, I think a local drink or something. So yeah, I think we could also toe the line in Nigeria because our herbs, our plants, it presents an opportunity for agri-businesses to thrive. It also presents an opportunity for indigenous farmers to collaborate with modern day researchers. So
to develop
exactly
stuff like that
going forward. Because if I claim a leaf such as Uziza, for example,
can
exactly and can boost immunity, can boost my immune system. So I don't see any reason why it shouldn't be scaled up. The pandemic has still on delivering on the SDGs, trying to curb poverty, trying to create hunger. And those people whose businesses have been affected, for example, the everyday tailor, people could not, he lost some of his customers because no one was going out. So some of them may have resorted to producing face masks. Some of them may have resorted to producing the protective, the PPEs, and some may have resorted to producing the uniforms for essential service people. So I think, like I stated before, it's an opportunity for us to look inwards and see what we can do differently to continue moving with the flow, as long as we are delivering on the SDGs. So there are also talks of, hey, we are home this lockdown, we're supposed to be working remotely and there's no light. Hey, God, what's going to do? I think this has also forced people to now begin to think of renewable energy. Do you understand? Yeah. Because what we've been dependent on in Nigeria is the non-renewable energy. So it has given people the opportunity to say, hey, okay, well, see, if I continue relying on fuel and NEPA, these people will ruin me. I don't have money to do all of these things. So it has seen people. So going forward, I expect that we may continue to see investment in renewable energy.
All right. So what role does the individual have to play in all of this?
So I think that question to be, because as an individual, I could also be a business owner.
Yes.
So I think what I need to do is to continue to lead responsible business practices. So talking from the perspective of an individual business owner or an individual executive, I need to continue to be human. I need to continue to, if I must not lay off, if I must not lay off my workers, I don't need to lay off my workers. If it means me taking a pay cut, or if it means a general pay cut in a company to avoid laying off workers, by all means, do that. So I think what the individual is supposed to do is to be human.
Yes.
First and foremost, you have to be human. If you're human, you're going to. If it is in being human that you're able to put the problems of your employees first.
Better perspective.
It is in being human that you're able to put the problems of those in your community first. Hey, this thing I'm doing, I'm an oil company or I'm company XYZ, and my activities are negatively impacting this community. So it is left for me to be human enough to know that, okay, this is what it's doing, and then I need to redefine these activities in my value chain. What can I do differently in my value chain to ensure that people are not suffering, people are not dying as a result of my pursuit for economic gains? So I think as an individual person, be you a business owner, even be you a regular person, be human.
Even a preacher.
A young person, don't just go out and begin to bash people online. You don't know what the person is going through. So I think just be human. Just be human. Let's be human together.
Thank you so much, Vincent. This has really been an eye-opening conversation, but unfortunately we don't have much time to spend together.
Okay.
Hopefully we'll talk more behind camera
no problem,
about this.
No problem.
This is really...
these conversations need to keep on. We need to keep on having these conversations, because poverty is something that I think this year statistics show that 40% of Nigerians live in poverty. That's about 89 million thereabouts. So these are conversations we need to keep on having. What can I do as a person? What can the church do? What can the business person do? So what can we all do? We are not going. This is the time where we're not going to say, hey, it's the government, it's the government. We all have to come together. We have to collaborate. What can I bring to the table? What can I? COVID is a practical example. We had people Dangote, we had banks, we had different people coming together because of a common objective. That's collaboration. It's very important. So I think we need to keep on having these conversations. We need to keep on sensitizing people. Hey, it's our responsibility. If we must, as humans, let's be humans. So let's be human together. So it's our responsibility to ensure that things go well. We will continue to do the best we can. Yes, we know we cannot completely eliminate poverty
But
because
we
poverty
can
is as old
get
as man.
there.
But we can take quantum leaps. We can make considerable progress. And I think we just need to keep on having these conversations.
All right, thank you so much, Vincent.
Yes.
It's been a pleasure. And that has been our show for today. Unfortunately, we can't take much because, there's no time.
Okay.
All right, so let's cue to today's episode of Know Your Faith. Enjoy.
Hey there, welcome to Know Your Faith series. I am Collins, and today we'll be talking about something that is very, very important, and we've been seeing cases rising very regularly these days on social media and people talking a lot about it. Today we'll be talking about why rape is such a terrible sin. Now, statistically, 1 out of 5 girls and 1 out of 6 boys experience some sort of sexual harassment before the age of 18. A very scary statistics, if you ask me. Now, this is to everyone who has ever faced any form of sexual harassment. I want you to know that first, it was not your fault and you should not feel guilty in any way. And that you are not damaged in the eyes of God. That even in this pain, He calls you because you are beautiful, strong, and chosen by Him. Now, the Catechism of the Catholic Church in paragraph 2356 says, rape is the forcible violation of the sexual intimacy of another person. It does injury to justice and charity. It deeply wounds the respect, freedom, and physical and moral integrity to which every person has a right. It causes grave damage that can mark the victim for life. It is always an intrinsical evil act. Now, it goes further to state that even graver is the sin of incest or sexual harassment from parent to child or guardian to child. Now, the church generally has taught us that sexual intercourse has a purpose and that outside marriage, the purpose is defeated. And even within marriage, it's also very important that there is consent from both parties. There are several damaging effects that rape can do to the victims. And I mean, as Christians, these are things that we should always think about and always consider. The damages could range from physical effects to emotional distress. They feel embarrassment and shame, guilt, depression, nightmares. Some people have probably even killed themselves after facing such bad situation. So generally, the church teaches us that sin of rape is a mortal sin. It is against the 6th commandment and a violation of the human dignity. On another episode of KYF, we'll be reflecting on the story of the creation and what exactly human dignity means. And the Catechism of the Catholic Church in paragraph 123, it talks about the general impact of sexual sins on our lives, how it drives us away from God and makes us slaves to these acts. So I encourage us to always have discussions like this. It's very important within the family, within your friends. Talk about things like this. Have sex education. I understand that it can be an uncomfortable situation or an uncomfortable topic to discuss, but it's important that as parents, we talk to our children, or even as young people, we talk to our friends about this and enlighten them, and by doing so, we're making society a better place. So thank you for joining us today. I hope you learned a couple of things, and to know that rape is a terrible, 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 terrible thing to do. All right, so till I come your way next time, be bold and be Catholic.
That was Know Your Faith. Thank you so much for staying with us up till this time. And I hope you've been educated on today's article of Know Your Faith. Make sure you catch this episode and other past episodes of the show on our YouTube channel, Dominican Media Presents. You can also join us on Twitter every Tuesday on our CFF chatroom with the hashtag CFF chatroom. Our handle is at CFF on TV. And this week's question is, what did the lockdown teach you? Share your answers with us, and you can also leave us comments across board on our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We are also at CFF on TV. Thank you so much, Vincent, once again. And until we come your way with another wonderful episode of Catholic Faith Forum, keep being saints in jeans and shirts. There's no time. All right, so let's cue to today's episode of Know Your Faith. Enjoy. was enjoying it. I just needed to come back. I know. All right. That was Know Your Faith. Thank you so much for staying with us until this time.